What parents, Kuku is laughing, what parents want? How are parental perceptions of EdTech evolving? This is a multi-million-dollar question. And I have parents and technologists on the show. So I'll be talking to Eno Kwegroin. She's a marketing strategist, founder and CEO of Talkative Mom. Eno, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
I like the name of your company, Talkative Mom. We'll talk about that later.
Okay.
We also have George Apia. He's a techpreneur and executive director of Ghana Tech Lab. George, good morning.
Good morning, Bernard.
Good to have you. Faustina Copson is an educationist and a parent. Faustina, great to have you. Good morning. Good morning, Faustina. Okay, I don't know if I have Faustina. I'll confirm that shortly. And I also have Miracle Gavo. Miracle is an EdTech consultant, a founder of Ghana Society of Education and Technology, and a PhD student at the University College of London. He works in the Knowledge Lab in London. Miracle Gavo, good morning.
Good morning, Coco. How are you?
Charlie, your name is just killing me. Miracle. I love your name. Miracle Gavo. Great to have you. Let me see if I have Faustina. I still don't have Faustina, so we'll start with who I have. Look, so today we're trying to work our way through this whole idea of what parents are doing, right? So maybe, I'll start with you. And before I even talk about that, just tell me about your organization, Talkative Moms, and the other things you do. I find it interesting. Talkative Mom, what is that about?
So Talkative Mom is the first parenting app in Ghana.
Okay.
It wasn't always an app. It was actually a blog I started 3 years ago when I first had my son. And I realized that people weren't really sharing the intricate, like they weren't being descriptive when it comes to motherhood. They weren't being candid. And I decided I would share more about it. So that's really how Talkative Mom came about. And as I shared, I had other moms also wanting to share their stories because, it's not like a one size fits all sort of thing. It's like everyone has their own unique stories. So they wanted to share theirs. And eventually it became a platform for parents. And then this year, that was in February, it evolved into a parenting app. And so now it doesn't just have stories. It also has experts. So gynecologists, pediatricians, speech and language therapists, all of them share their, they give advice, and then they also share blog posts there. And then we have businesses on there who also want to market to parents. And then we also have a search engine so that if you have questions, you can enter in there, and then we have a listings feature. So let's say your child wanted to start school, you don't know where to start from. You can start from our app. You would have list of schools, their school fees, locations, numbers, hospitals, everything. So it's basically a one-stop shop for every parent.
I like it. I'll check it out. So a lot of families were confused when COVID came. In terms of education, because schools were closed. Some were trying to teach their kids at home. What was your own situation? Was your son already in school? How did the new normal affect your household educational management?
Right. So I have two boys. My first son had been in school for about 1.5 years. And the second had just started school for about 2 months, and then COVID hit. So I don't think he really understood the concept of school fully before COVID hit. Now, it was tough. It was really, really tough for me and a lot of parents. Suddenly, we appreciated teachers even more because we realized that we weren't fully equipped to teach our kids at home. And so for a lot of us, well, for me, I would say that what I did was I researched a lot into educative apps out there that I could use to teach my kids, like phonics. So there's an app like Jolly Phonics and things like that. I would research on that, download them, and I would use that as a guide to teach the kids. I also got them, mini tablets so that they could. These tablets had Montessori apps on it already, and I wanted to, facilitate their learning. So then I got for them as well. And I went online to read what other parents were doing on YouTube, things like that, because it was new to all of us. So we all sort of had to rally around each other and guide each other and help and all that. So yeah, these were the things I sorted.
Okay. Let me welcome Faustina Cobson. Faustina, good morning. Welcome to EdTech Monday on Citi.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
You are described as a parent and an educationist. So that means that you are wearing two hats today. I hope you have both of them firmly on.
Sure.
So let's talk about some of the challenges that virtual learning presented for your wards and your students. I was just talking about how she had to get Montessori apps on tablets and things like this. How was the process like for you with the COVID coming in, having to juggle teaching and also raising kids at home?
Okay, thank you. As a parent, with my ward, I have a boy. He was lost, and we were both lost because he didn't know what to do, but had arranged an online thing for him. Before the online thing came, the government had already programmed TV educational activities for them. And he would be there and he would tell you, what is the person doing? I'm not enjoying. I'm not focusing. I can't concentrate. And so for a teacher, I come in to say, just listen, just be there and just listen. Just listen, try, and then be there. So I had to come back to read around online stuff, and I got the opportunity to be trained in online teaching. So I was doing more coaching for him. It wasn't easy. As for my learners, we both parties went off because coming from a public sector side of education, the kind of kids I have there and parents, we both went off. The government made provision for a radio program for them, and there were certain books we were supposed to give to them so that they would use for the program. But it's like you had to call the parents for them to come pick the books for the wards. You call them and they are like, madam, where we are, we don't have access to the radio program. We can't connect. We can't do this. So some of them didn't even bother to pass by to pick the books. Those that pick the books too, you try to even reach them via normal calls just to check as a teacher, to check if they are on track. You call them and the phones are with the parents. They're on the market selling. I'm not home. I can't, maybe you would have to wait till evening. And then by evening you call, the child is asleep and all that. So yes, we tried our best, but yeah.
Interesting. Let me come to George and Miracle. So the two parents have discussed or described some of the challenges they face. Would you say our educational system and our homes were prepared for the shift required for online learning? Or would you say the way it happened, we were all caught by surprise? Yes, George, let me start with you, George. What would you say about the preparedness of both schools and homes for the shift that was required, particularly when the pandemic struck?
Well, thank you. So what I would say is the obvious something what our panel said, Christina said, that we're not ready for that. We were maybe some few schools then who had access to maybe computers and maybe tablets, some parents and some children that do have that, but majority of the case were not. We live in a country where internet and even access to digital devices is extremely rare, especially as we move on to the hinterlands and into the rural areas. So I think it got caught us by surprise. We have never thought that e-learning would be at the point that it is right now, to the point that it is not being considered as part of our education system, mainstream educational system. So also we were not ready. We really got us by surprise.
So both the schools and the parents are not ready. Miracle, what do you think? You live and work in the UK now. So, but I'm talking first from a Ghana perspective, and then you can sort of give us a nice comparison because you have a lot of people you work with in Ghana too. So how unawares were we caught when this whole thing happened?
Yes. So at the time that the COVID struck, I was education advisor for the colleges of education in Ghana. And it was just the day before
they reopened formally was when there was an announcement of school closures. Now, what that meant for them was that they were not going to have learning and teaching going on. What struck me at the time was we have a catalog of students and teachers who were either not prepared to learn using technology or teach using technology. So we needed to shift from that mindset to begin with to how then do we engage and then continue learning with our school system. The sad part of it is that even though we've had ICT education over the period, we never prepared learners and teachers to use technology for instruction or for learning. So even though there were computers all around us, there were devices like the TV, the radio, there wasn't no training on how to use this for teaching and learning. We were caught unawares also at a time when nobody knew what to do. Then a lot of things were also then being thrown at us. Then there was a quagmire of the whole space being filled with so many things, whether to choose radio or to go with television or to go with mobile devices. So those were some of the things that were like, and of course, nobody had the mind of say putting things aside for emergency, So that was also a challenge that took the system unawares.
George, let me come back to you. We know that education technologies have been with us for a while. From where you sit, have you noticed any change in parents' attitudes towards EdTech in general? So, for example, have their demand for certain educational products increased? What can you tell us about that, George?
Yeah, certainly. So I think we're at a point now you find a lot of parents who are trying to acquire learning tablets, customized learning tablets for their kids for them to involve in. I think in some schools too, they have even gone to the extent of permitting kids to now come with computers and laptops to school. So I think in that perspective, we have seen a lot of change in that. And then even on the side of government went ahead to make a some spectrum for broadcasting of e-learning content and all that. And I think that's something that also came at the right time because allow parents to know where to go and look for content. And I think that was also very critical. So, I mean, from where we sit, we see the increase in the adaptation of providing access to digital devices like laptops and tablets. Gone were the days you never thought that a parent would buy maybe a tablet for a kid. But now you could see, especially let's say in Accra, in Kumasi, the big cities, and then some of the private schools, you see kids having access to this tablet, which is a good thing. There's still some couple of challenges, especially that we need to look at. But on the whole, there's a greater increase in that.
And I'll come back to you. I was discussing with Kokui earlier our struggles as parents and how to use the tablet and the whole idea of screen time. Okay, and we have boys as well. So I don't know how you deal with that. Just talk to me about how you manage that because you're talking about having some specific types of apps on the tablet. Yeah, right. How do you manage that whole process to make sure that they get to learn, but also ensure they don't spend all their day behind the screen? Okay.
Right. Yeah, because that was one of the concerns I was going to raise. Screen time is what most parents are concerned about because we are afraid that we are going to raise a generation of like screen zombies. All they do is just stay on the screen throughout. They don't want to interact with human beings. And so for me, one thing I was grateful for was that tablets are not on the entire day. I remember that the tablet that I had for the boys, it used to die really quick. The battery would die maybe I think after about 4 or 5 hours, it would die. But I wouldn't let them use it continuously. So obviously they would have to eat, they would have to do other things. And when they are eating, I wouldn't give them their tablets. I know certain there are parents who say, oh, they wouldn't eat without watching. But I feel that sometimes you have to be firm when it comes to certain things. So they should have some outdoor time where they can just go out and play and come back in and use the tablets. The minute the tablet is dead, I said the tablet is dead. I need to go and charge it. And when I'm charging it, I know it takes this number of hours, but I will tell them it takes longer than that so that whenever they're asking for the tablet, I'm saying it's still charging. So they know that they can't use it throughout. they can't even go and lie on their bed and be watching the tablet, because that's what happens. Some people would watch it and then fall asleep with it. They wake up and the tablet is on. So we had to set certain rules so that they don't cause that. Otherwise, then they really would become addicted. And even with that, I did see some level of addiction, because the little time they get, it's like they don't want to stop watching it. So that's what created the concern for me. And I realized, you know what, I have to be strict about this. Funny enough, their tablets has been spoiled for a while now, and I want to delay getting them. I would get it, but I want to delay, because I just want to, be able to regulate the screen time and things like the addiction, because it's
you want to wean them off tablet affinity.
I want to wean them off a bit,
Tablet affinity.
Yeah. So
okay, that's interesting. I'll come back. Faustina, so you are again a teacher and a parent. To help bridge the technology gap now that we are in a COVID era. And then as a parent, how do you manage the balance between using these gadgets and these technologies and not overspending time on it? Faustina.
Okay, so like she said, same trend. You need to set rules with the learners or your ward. I mean, as a parent, I needed to set rules for him. He's grown, but he needs to know what to do at what time. He needs to know what time. It was a timetable thing. We both had a timetable. He is in the SHS, so we had a timetable. So he knows when to go on it, when to be with the radio, when to be with if it's TV, when to be with the laptop, phone, whatever. It was a timetable thing. And I try to make time create time for his social life as well. So like she said, she'll put it off, but for him, he's grown and he knows much more than myself. So you can't put it off and say you're charging, but you need to talk to him for him to understand, educate him around the thing, else they would go off track. So
that's in the home. What about in the school? I believe you are an educationist as well.
Yeah.
Can you talk about some of the tools or products, or in the school environment, it's purely just Zoom?
Please, you were breaking, so I
was saying that what you were saying was in relation to the home and how you are managing your son.
Yeah.
What about the school environment? What tools are you using, and is it working or not?
Okay, so in the school environment, I won't say zero for everything, but of course, I'm looking at the public sector. Much of the thing I would say has to do with maybe the laptop and the usage of the laptop. And for my school, where we're having close to 1,000 learners, and you are having just about 7 of them functioning well. So you would ask yourself, when would your class get its 10? So what I did was to go around and get some parts of a laptop or whatever, and then I mounted in my class so they can interact with it. At least they need to know what a mouse is. They need to play around it. So that was what I was doing. And though they play with it, they don't really get the screen talking to them, but at least they should be fidgeting with it till it gets to their turn to interact with the actual product or the actual gadget. So for now, I am not really having that interaction with them having to do with the okay. Product.
Let me come to Miracle. What can you share about what tools parents are using to bridge the gap and whether it's working or not?
Yes, I've been listening to my colleagues, and I find it interesting. We're all talking just about the mobile devices, the laptop. We are forgetting the case where I started teaching, where even radio has transformed so much that parents have radios that are so small that they take along with them to the farms. When government had initiated the radio program, these are people they were targeting. These are the people that they were looking at as well. But the transformation of radio over the years meant that they didn't have access in those communities because radio has become so small. Parents now move around with them. So when the broadcasts were ongoing, children were not even having access in certain places. That is one. The other side of it is that radio again has the radio space in Ghana now is so vast. There are several stations broadcasting, but how many of these stations were we using? And then what is the reach of these stations to the people that were targeting in the rural communities? So that was for me a strong point, that in as much as the cities seem to be all moving towards the internet, and then for that matter, mobile devices, we tend to lose focus on the hard to reach in society and then how we prepare for them. Let's not forget, when we talk about EdTech, we are not just looking at the internet. There's also radio, there's also television, and then how we use this to reach out to the people in the hard to reach communities also becomes very essential. So parents will definitely consider one, devices, affordability, and then the content that is being broadcast to them. So those are the things I would also like us to kind of bring on board.
From what you're saying, Miracle, it's very clear there's a huge rural-urban divide, and there's definitely a divide on the basis of access to technology. How serious is this divide? Because again, before you went to the UK, I know you worked in Ghana in many places. Give us a sense of the digital divide when it comes to tools for education between our highly privileged schools, mostly in the urban areas, and some of our deprived schools.
Yes, so the bottom line to that will also be infrastructure. To talk about devices, I know of organizations like Warrior that provide some devices in the Kwabe Brim district for children to use for their learning. But again, those devices are only meant for the school level work. Beyond that, the devices that probably we have underrated in our education, and for that matter, the use of EdTech, is the radios and the TVs. We haven't appropriated them well enough to kind of cover the space for those in the hard-to-reach communities, because in the hard-to-reach communities, there's a huge gap in terms of the internet reach to these places that we needed to consider. I know the networks, MTN, Vodafone, and Co. This marvelous work by quite listed internet sources that were providing educational content at the time. But again, we have an issue that the internet is just one side, and then the other side of technology, radio and television, were not fully appropriated for the hard-to-reach communities, and that was a huge concern. In the urban communities, even, there are places that you go to and you still have issues of connection and then issues of divide. I was very surprised in 2016 through 18, I was working with schools in Amasaman. You would believe the Amasaman being what it is. Pokwasi was urban, but there were schools in those communities that did not have access to these devices. You go to the school, even classroom space, they were using palm fronts. I'm talking Amasaman. If you know Amasaman very well, the lorry station, it's a busy area. They have schools that were using palm fronts at the time. So then it also obviously tells you in such instances, then even though they're in the city, they still have an issue of accessibility to these technologies that we talk about.
This is EdTech Mondays, brought to you by the MasterCard Foundation. And the EdTech Monday is one of the initiatives of the Foundation's Regional Center for Teaching and Learning in ICT, aimed at leveraging technology to advance teaching and learning. Now, EdTech Monday has been with us for the past at least 4.5 months. Almost every last Monday in the month, we discuss education. Today, we have put the parents on the spot. Now, the question is, do they even know technology? Do they understand how it works? Now, how are parents' limitations affecting the usage of their children and their wards to technology? It's also one of the questions we'll answer. My guests are 4 very nice people. I'm speaking to Enokwe Green. She's a marketing strategist and the founder and CEO of a group called Talkative Mom. I love the name, Talkative Mom. It's my children who are talkative, not their mom. But I don't know how you got. I have one who just talks. He's just talking. So you should do talkative toddlers too, because the guy can talk. He's described mom. Faustina Cobson is an educationist and a parent. She balances both, as is if you would like. Georgia Pierre is a techpreneur and executive director of Ghana Tech Lab. And then Miracle Gavo The name is Miracle. He's an EdTech consultant and the founder of the Ghana Society of Educational Technology and a PhD. Kukui, I hope you're listening. I hope you're enjoying the show so far.
Look, I'm listening. I'm enjoying. I'm thinking of my own situation. As you said, both of us are parents who have very active children.
Yes.
And when the at the height of the COVID pandemic, we all had to face this issue of online learning and how to coordinate this and how to transition from the classroom in-person teaching style to now having to be the primary teachers at home and coordinating what was going on online with teachers in a different location and our children at home. So it's really interesting to learn how other people had handled it.
Yeah.
We're still learning, we're still growing, and with regard to how technology works in the learning sphere, the do's and don'ts of allowing our children to use certain gadgets, and the potential that's out there for online
it almost
learning.
Forces you to be in the space of what your child is learning.
It does. You have to be in tune with every bit of what they're learning to make sure that they're actually staying on task.
So you can't be a passive parent when it comes to education now.
Bernard,
because you are there with them. You are now doing the work.
It doesn't work. You have to be present.
Now let me bring Faustina back. Faustina, I remember, and George, I'll come to you. One of the things that we found when the COVID issue came on, some parents were saying that, hey, we didn't know that teaching was this hard, and that we have to increase the salaries of our teachers. Now you are a parent who also a teacher, so you already know this. But to what extent did the lack of going to school sort of take up your time as a parent, so that parenting became more hands-on? Just talk to me a bit about that.
Yeah, so back at home during the COVID, I wasn't going to school. I was home just with my learner, and we were doing everything together because, I mean, you can't cook every day, you can't wash every day. So if he's learning, you need to follow up. If he's listening to the TV program, at times when they see you, the remote is on and you're excited, you leave and it's off. So you have to be there. Yeah, you have to be there. And then the online class that I organized for him, what I did, what I told the teacher to put me also on their platform. So I have to monitor what was happening there, because he keeps complaining. He just sits in the class 15, 20 minutes and he comes and it's like, I'm off the class. My data is off, my connectivity and all that. So I was thinking he was just playing some pranks with me. So I had to join the class. And I realized that in the process, one of the learners may just go off and then come. So please, can you bring me back? My line dropped. And then another, I think some few weeks back, one did same, and then he said, "Sir, can you please bring me back?" The man said, "Oh, we closed about 10 minutes ago. The class is off." So I have been with him through and through. You can't leave. You need to monitor the process. You need to be part of whatever gadgets you are putting your learner or your ward with, so that you know what exactly is happening. For us, having the teenagers especially, they can go off. They go off at any time. They just go off. By the time you realize they've gone to a music sector and they are standing there and they are just dancing, and you don't know what is happening while the class is ongoing. So I have been with the process since, and till date I've been with the process. Yeah.
Now, what would make you pay for an educational technology as a parent or as a teacher? What would make you recommend a particular product to a parent to enhance the education of their ward, Faustina?
Okay, so as a parent, what is going to make me pay? I would want to look at the content, whatever tech program is coming with. I want to know the content. I want to know the affordability, if I would be able to afford. Of course, I would talk same for myself as a parent, and then in recommending for other parents, it will still be the same. Accessibility. Is it accessible? Is it something that is friendly, that my ward or the learner can handle without, less support and all that? Yes, that is what I'm going to look out for.
So affordability and accessibility. Okay, George, let me come to you. So as players in the space, what can the EdTech community do to ensure that products are affordable, inclusive, and accessible? Talk to us about that.
Uh, those are very, very big questions. I think it needs a lot of stakeholders to work together to make that happen. But it is possible. We just have to have the commitment towards it. I think all the stakeholders need to recognize that this is the future. This is where we are going towards to. And as such, we work our way in achieving that. That is the only way that we could find a solution to it. But it will not be a one-way fix it. I mean, we mentioned that we have the telcos may have available some bandwidth for making our education platform free. We need the government to do more in supporting such initiatives going forward. Parents has to be actively involved in getting the best for their kids. I think this is also going to be very critical and fundamental going forward in that perspective. So I think we all stakeholders need to get together. The future of education is definitely e-learning. We might not be having privilege as parents during our time to have access to this, but it doesn't take anything away from us to invest in ourselves first to enable us guide our kids in making the right choices to make the progress that we need to achieve on. But this is what I see as the way forward.
So the potential to drive down price and cost are there, right? So that because if you want all parents to have access to the basic technology, we have to have a conversation about affordability and price. What is the appetite of the edtech product people for reducing their costs so that they can rather spread the devices? Because I think for now some of them are focused on making money, so they are selling them as premium products.
Yeah. Is sorry, I think so. What I would say on that is like in this country we have a very low consumption of digital products. Now all digital products based on the internet. Now we are going to, in let's say 10, 20 years time, we are going to have a population which have a lot of them having access to digital devices, and a lot of them will find themselves on internet. This will lead to a huge consumption of digital product or digital consumption, which benefit the telcos and just those involved in provision of internet. So now they also see it as their way in helping accelerate the economy into a digital consumption economy, so that like we can become like maybe the United States or those highly developed countries where you can have a digital product going viral or having a mass adaptation. So the telcos should see it as a long-term investment that is their part contribution in building a digital consumption population. Because if you give them free at maybe at the primary schools, when they get to the universities, when they get to the SHS, they will still be digital consumers, and they will consume more of digital products, which indirectly or directly helps to increase revenues for telcos. So I think the telcos need to see it as a long-term investment so that they can help us reduce the cost of internet as of it now, especially for educational context.
What can you tell us from the perspective of the mothers who are on your platform as to their experiences about cost of technology, usability and suitability and stuff like that? Because I'm sure you guys discussed this. What are some of the insights you've gleaned from working mothers about using technology and whether it's too expensive, whether it's even effective or not, and all these online schooling things?
Right. So, I mean, most of us didn't have enough education when it came to this because COVID is new. No one expected it to happen. And so a lot of us were thrown into this space where we suddenly had to quickly find devices and teach our kids. So once the education isn't there, you don't really see the importance. But when it got to a point where we realized that this was the last resort, we have to be the teachers. We have to teach them from the house. They would have online learning and things like that. We knew that we had to try and get devices. What I would say is that as compared to previous years, now a lot of these devices are much cheaper than before. Tablets, kids' tablets, for example, you can get it for 280 cedis, 350 cedis. that's the amount you would spend on probably like internet bundle for the month, or I don't know what else, some other bill. So for me, I felt, okay, now it's much cheaper. I'm happy that most of these manufacturers are considering our kids and our finances and then doing things that are cheaper for us. So the price is good for most parents. I wouldn't talk for everyone. And accessibility is also there. When I started using it for my kids, I realized that a lot of parents started reaching out, where did you get this? So I also decided to start selling to parents, and I sold a lot because lots of them needed it and the price was good. So for me, accessibility is there. Now, what I would say is that for lots of the parents, we just have to educate them as much as possible, because we are in a technological era. It's not going anywhere. I always say that our parents, when social media and things started, Facebook and things started, they were like, no, we will not create accounts there. You are exposing yourself. The witch doctor will see your picture and go and use it, and things like that. But now all our parents are on WhatsApp, they're on Facebook. It's a technological era. You would have to embrace it. Even right now, what we are doing now, it's by the use of technology. If technology wasn't there, we wouldn't be able to do what we are doing now. Yeah. And so people just have to embrace it. So for me, I believe that platforms need to be created. I'm happy that I have my platform where I'm creating awareness. Platforms have to be created. Education has to be there for people to understand that this is something that is not going anywhere, and you have to embrace it. Very soon, our kids are going to grow up, and they probably would not know that there was anything like in-person meetings. Meetings will be virtual all the time. It's going to be the norm. My husband he works at a bank. He's been working from home since last year. He's not stepped foot at the bank. Yes. So he works from home. Yeah. So, because he is in the tech space. So for him, he's always been fighting for this and saying that we can have our meetings virtual. Why are we doing this? And once COVID hits, he's been working from home, and now it's working. Everything is effective. He's able to, be as productive as he was, even more productive, because he gets.
No, he's the husband, and you're the one moving around.
I also have my meetings virtually, but
tell him to wash the dishes and also scrub the house.
Please tell him. I'll send you his number so you can send it to him.
So you will now go, but then he will do the scrubbing, so that rows of things. All right, Miracle, I have a 2-in-1 question for you. From the discussion, we've noticed that there's obviously a divide, urban-rural, when it comes to access to technology. But there's also a divide between people who are able and those who are not, because some of my friends when we speak to people who have special needs children, our educational system doesn't think about them at all, and I don't even think we contemplate them in any of our discussions. Again, you are in an environment now that sort of deals with that very cogently. What's your comment about bridging not just the rural-urban divide, but also the divide between able and disabled when it comes to using technology for students?
Yeah, thank you. Just a brief comment about the accessibility and affordability issues, then I'll drive that into the inclusivity concerns as well. For me, I consider accessibility usually in terms of content that needs to be delivered, the knowledge that we want them to acquire. And then for affordability, I'll look at it mostly in terms of the devices. Obviously, that device in some cases might have to come with data, electricity, and all of that. For accessibility, we need to first look at the content and how we make the content available to the users, the learners. And then for the devices, again, there are several of them. There's the mobile devices, there's a radio, there's a TV. And then how can those in various parts get access to all the devices? If you can't have internet, can you have access to radio? And then we look at how we transmit to them as well. Now, coming to the issue of inclusivity, yes, the edtech space have done so much in terms of programming or making technologies available for those who cannot. I do know for a fact that when the issue erupted, colleges that train teachers and then had people with some form of disability, either hearing or sight, they were provided with technologies that will allow them to continue learning from home. And that was supported by MasterCard Foundation through TTEL. So then there was provision for them as well. But how intensely we think about it and then provide for them is an issue that is always, in most cases, afterthought. In most of the cases, when you're having conversations, it comes at the end of the conversation, and that is where everybody is tired and then they want to dig. So it's something we need to put up front. The moment you want to talk about accessibility, access should all be inclusive of everybody. The kind of technologies that are available, we call them assistive technologies for the hearing impaired or those who have sight issues. How well we create awareness around that is also an issue, because there's one thing we might not have mentioned is awareness and then the confidence to click. If you have informed the people, you've empowered the people, if they on their own do not have the confidence to move on to those technologies, which is beliefs and attitudes, then we have a big challenge there. I think GSETs over the years has been doing a lot in that regard with teachers a lot in terms of conducting orientations on several forms of education technology, and then what technologies are there for the various subject teachings as well. So the teachers now becoming aware of the technologies for the disabled people. I would want to say disabled because they're just differently abled, people with impairment in one way or the other. The awareness needs to be there, both from the teacher end of education, and then also the wider community in terms of what is available and what you can do. I remember my days as a head teacher in the village. I had one student who was hard of hearing, and it was hard for me as a teacher to communicate with him. But because of awareness, I was able to get assistance for him, and then he moved to a school that probably will cater for his needs, and then he moved on. So those are the things that we also need to do a lot more, and I appreciate that NO is doing a lot with advocacy with parents. But then we in education also have to do a more of advocacy as to what is possible in the classroom for including people with impairment in our teaching and learning context as well.
Let's read some comments that have come in, and then when we are done, I'll take final comments from the guests. So here's one from a listener who's an educationist, and he says, if a child is not enjoying the process of learning, no learning takes place. The engagement becomes an endurance exercise.
Yeah.
So I think the question then becomes, how do we make the children enjoy the process instead of enduring the process? That's a question. I think somebody should take note of that to address. Koki, if there are any quick more comments.
Yes, here's one from Martha in Achimota. Good morning. I just downloaded the Talkative Mom app. Although I'm not yet a mother, I'm very impressed. I'm still exploring the app, but so far I'm in love in terms of the expert gynecologist list and the home and baby items even on sale on the app. This is worth sharing. Kudos to Eno for that.
How do we ensure the process becomes more of an enjoyment than an endurance? That's the question for all four of you. Whilst we try and wrap up.
Hi. So I wanted to speak on.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to speak on what I did, because I believe that it's all about balance again. Okay, it shouldn't be just the devices. For example, let's say for me, what I always say is that education is all around us. So if you are teaching your kids, it doesn't necessarily mean that, let's say, you have to set up a classroom setting at home, put the device in front of the child, and then that's all they do. And then they associate learning with just that. For me, if you, like I said, take them outside. So let's say they were learning about, even if it was science, how tree grows, how plants grow, things like that. Take them, let them have a feel of the plants. Let them see how butterflies, how do they evolve into a butterfly? Things like that. Then when they come back and they are using the device and they are looking at it, it sort of makes sense. It shouldn't. One thing that I've realized about the educational system here in Ghana is that we've made it very rigid, where it's like you go to the classroom and then that is where you learn. When you come back, it's play. If it's homework time, that's the only time you learn and you are done. But learning should encompass everything around us. You are sitting in the car with the child can understand how the car even moves. How are we able to move the car from the house to where we are going to? You can chat with them about things like that. So that when they are learning in class, it's not like today we are learning science, you go and bring the science book, and then that is what science is. You are learning math, you bring the math book, that is what math is. Learning should be enjoyable, it should be fun for kids. Kids really, during COVID, for example, the reason why lots of kids were frustrated is because it was new to them and they were frustrated. We were also frustrated. And because we were frustrated, we kept putting our frustration on them. It was like, can't you understand that you have to sit put and learn this way? Sometimes it comes from us. But once we are able to get the education and understand that learning shouldn't just be like that, we would soften up and be able to understand them, and we should also understand that they are also frustrated. Okay, so it's just a balance thing for me. Yeah.
All right. Let me read another question before we take answers. This is a long one from a lecturer and a psychometrician at the University of Ghana. He says, "Good morning. Thanks, Bernard. Thanks for the attention you are giving to education on your show. I like this morning's program about EdTech. There is also the need to look at the state of educational assessments, measurement and evaluation in our institutions, especially in this COVID-19 era. A lot is happening in that area that needs attention. Educational assessment, measurement, and evaluation is key components of our educational system. My regards to Miracle. Miracle, clearly you have friends in high places. I'm coming to let me do Faustina first. Enjoying education and not enduring it. Somebody says that's a very important part of the conversation. What's your thought about that?
Okay, so of course you need to enjoy whatever it is you are doing, and like Eno said earlier, you need to she sends her kids around to learn what is happening in the environment, in the learning environment. So like she said, the learning environment is not just the classroom. Any environment or wherever you put a learner, that learning can take place is a learning environment. And you would be glad to know that with the new curriculum, it is asking all teachers to teach through play. So learners are now going to do more of hands-on activities, which of course you can't have all in the classroom. They'll be playing more on the other side and still learning at the same time. So those times we knowing they only go in the class there, just sitting and getting what the teacher or the facilitator is saying is a thing. It's going to be a thing of the past, because for now and to come, the new curriculum is asking that we do learning through play, and that is what is going to happen. They wouldn't be whatever. I mean, they would no longer endure, but they are going to enjoy because they are learning through play.
Fantastic. George, let me ask you a question about privacy. Once you start exposing kids to using of these technologies, there are concerns that they may be putting out information to people who may use it without our knowledge or our consent. So as somebody in the edtech space, what's your advice to parents when it comes to using technology to enhance education, but also making sure that their privacy is not violated?
So Bernard, I think it comes from my first point, which I made around that parents need to be involved also in this space, so that they can get to understand what to do in helping their case. Because if you understand what to do, then you know what to guide your case against. So for instance, if you use YouTube has a dedicated channel for case. So we call it the YouTube case. There's even a Google Family app in which you control every content on your child tablet, so they can't access certain things. The information are well protected. Even when you look at other platforms, they always that kind of special content for case. But you need to know this. You need to be involved in this. Otherwise, you'll be setting up a YouTube for your case when they shouldn't have access to such content. They shouldn't be able to search for such content. So this is start from the parents to start with before you move on to the to the case. The way to protect their privacy and among other things. And also, I will also say this, that you also need to have a conversation with their educationist or their school
about what kind of content are they exposing their kids to, what kind of information are they taking for their kids in setting up that educational platform, and how is this data protected. You need to be concerned about how is school going around this. And thank God we have data protection. Is the school observing all these things required by data protection agency to make sure that the data of your case, the data of your your case involved are well protected, and you don't have malicious activities around it.
Fantastic. Let me take concluding comments from Miracle and Eno. What's your final comment, your advice to parents as we try to get our kids to enjoy the process of integrating technology into their learning? Right. Miracle first.
Okay, sure. When it starts with the content creation, you need to create contents that are experiential. It's about creating experiences for your learners. So we need to put our teachers in that frame of mind about how do you create experiential learning for your learners. That's one. The other bit that came up around measurement, evaluation, assessment in education is a big place when it comes to EdTech use, because if you were to use these devices in the transmission of knowledge, you obviously want to also conduct your measurement, evaluation, assessment using the same platform. You can use other means, or unless you're using this other complementary means to assess knowledge that have been transmitted and how that knowledge is being applied. So we need to also look at that critically in terms of the measurement processes, assessment processes we put in place to evaluate the learning that children go through using EdTech. For me, for parents, the big part is that, yes, EdTech will not replace teachers. We need to understand that it's complementary. And for us as parents, let's find out what are the technologies that are available to us and what is within our range in terms of what can we pay for and how do we use them. Others might go for radio, TV, and then the mobile devices. So we should also create that awareness around all of these things, that parents know what's available to them and then how they can use those as well. And then already George spoke about security issues. We need to also consciously make everyone aware what the breaches are with regard to security when we use EdTech devices for learning and for that matter teaching as well.
Let me give the last word to the talkative mom. What's your closing comment?
Okay, Bernard. So what I would say is that this is a new thing. So parents, let's not be too hard on ourselves. Yeah. We are not teachers. The parents who are teachers, that's great. But for parents who are not teachers, we are not teachers. Let's not be too hard on ourselves. This is new. Let's take our time. Let's explore. Let's educate ourselves on it. And also, let's not be too hard on the children because it's also very new to them. And so that we can make learning enjoyable for them and for us. Otherwise, the more they are frustrated, the more they would hate learning. And learning should be fun. So please, let's embrace technology, but let's find the right balance.
Thank you very much, Enokwe Green, marketing strategist and founder of Talkative Mom. Faustina Copson, educationist and a parent. George Appiah, techpreneur and executive director of Ghana Tech Lab. And Miracle Gavo, an EdTech consultant and a founder of the Ghana Society of Educational Technology, PhD student, UCL, London. Thank you for being on the show. And this program is the EdTech Monday, brought to you by the MasterCard Foundation, working with visionary organizations to enable young people in Africa and indigenous communities in Canada to access dignified work and fulfilling work as well. They have launched the Young Africa Works program, 10-year strategy to enable 3 million young Ghanaians participate and get access to dignified work by 2030. And the EdTech Monday is one of the initiatives of the Foundation's Regional Center for Teaching and Learning in ICT, aimed at leveraging technology to advance teaching and learning.